towards people with the same blood as oneself. Did your children not share your blood? No. You didn't want to be a mother. You preferred power. Faced with a group of Jewish prisoners, you felt omnipotent. A guard in charge of famished, exhausted, and desperate Jews, heads shaved, eyes vacant. What a despicable kind of power, Mother. I stare at Vienna's inhospitable sky and find myself being filled with an impulse to rebel. I regret replying so diligently to the call of a stranger. I should have ignored it, I tell myself. I should have let things drift along as they have for the last 30 years. I was too hasty in deciding to leave. The letter had arrived one day in late August, and for some strange reason it had filled me with apprehension even before I opened it. What on earth could be inside that disgusting pink envelope? I wasn't expecting any post from Vienna. I had left the city in 1963, and from then on I had lost all contact with my old friends. The writer of the letter was a woman called Gisela Freihorst, who said she'd been a dear friend of my mother. That was how I learned that my mother was still alive. Yes, she was still alive, but she had recently been transferred to a Seniorenheim, an old people's nursing home. Her condition was deteriorating. She would leave her house and get lost. She would forget to turn off the water, or even worse, the gas, and risk blowing up the entire building. All in all, as they say in such cases, she had become a danger to herself and to other people. At first, she had been looked after by her local mental health service. She had to attend the day hospital for the elderly 3 times a week, and the rest of the time she was visited by various kinds of social worker. She always sent them away with a flea in their ear. Clearly the years had done nothing to sweeten her character, which had always been suspicious, confrontational, and rebellious. But in the end, the decision had been taken to remove her from her flat and place her in an environment where she could be monitored day and night. "Your mother is approaching the age of 90, the letter concluded, and she could pass away from one day to the next. Why not consider the possibility of meeting her one last time? After all, she is still your mother." Those words, at once plain and bureaucratic, disturbed me profoundly. After my bruising encounter with my mother in 1971, I had buried her memory in a dark recess of my mind. For many years I was convinced that my virtual burial of her had somehow become real. I imagined my mother interred in one of those haunting cemeteries in Vienna, the city where both she and my father were born, that same Vienna where I had lived as a girl, at school, lonely and resentful. The city that I had admired but never loved. Vienna, with its ancient imperial pride, rigorous, polite, green, clean, frosty Vienna. That Vienna which even today, from a distance of 27 years, I still observe with a kind of suspicious fascination. And I had been fooling myself all along. That letter, in its disgusting pink envelope, dragged me out of my cosy conviction that my mother was dead, and that I would never again have to confront torments and pain on her account. It is 7:20, and it's starting to drizzle. The gloomy sky is aggravating my unease. I should have ignored the letter. I'm becoming more and more convinced of it. I would have been unsettled for several days, and then I would gradually have buried it along with all the rest, slipping once more towards some semblance of tranquility. And yet I didn't. I allowed myself to be overwhelmed by the news, by Frau Freihorst's sad words, or perhaps it was just my own curiosity. What would my mother look like today? Or was it rather a small and foolish hope that was awakening in me? Perhaps she would have changed. Perhaps her great age would have softened her heart. Perhaps she would even be capable of some kind of maternal gesture. Curiosity, hope, and a kind of dark attraction. I had succumbed, and as though afraid of changing my mind,